You already told me.
That was what the recess was for.
I know.
We're back.
We're on. Yeah, volume's in. Thank you, Ed.
May I address the?
Yes, you may.
There was an error on the slide with the formula that last year's expenditure said $5,000. It should have been $5,900, so that was the difference. We corrected the formula on the slide, on the sheet. So
I think it's important to say that it is not,
nothing
is impacting the
No.
proposed budget.
The proposed budget is correct.
Any other questions on finance? All right, next.
Human resources. That we will see.
33.
That, yes, correct. The largest increase is retirement, as I've been reminding. And actually, I'd asked the finance director to correct the Medicare issue. There was
Discuss it?
yeah.
Okay. Here, let me pull that one up on my screen.
But Medicare, last year was budgeted $27,002, and we're budgeting at $43,099, which is actual as looking for the salaries that we're proposing.
Correct.
My understanding is the Municipal Budget Committee
Yes.
artificially deflated the number last year by cutting it in half, or by a...
They just cut it.
They just cut it.
In half.
Say that one more time.
It was artificially deflated.
So last year, the proposed budget was about $40,000, or higher than 40,000. The Budget Committee cut it in half, and so that the approved budget was $27,000. Okay, we are going to go over that particular line item in this fiscal year.
Yeah.
And actually, at the next meeting, I'm going to ask for a budget adjustment from one line to another line to fix this problem. So if you look at the 2014 budget, we have budgeted $43,000. That's a more realistic number.
And if you look at our past experience, it's been about $43,000.
Councilor Zink.
I hope you'll look into that a little bit more, because that doesn't seem reasonable to me. It's like cutting FICA or something.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what the discussion would have been why we're not going to pay a % of payroll. It just doesn't make it.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it just
But
doesn't make
if you were to, I can get the budget if you'd like. You can see the department proposal, the town administrator proposal, the town council proposal, and then when it went to the budget committee, it was just cut.
So this is, yeah, we budget to actuals on that one, because that's when you don't, I mean, it doesn't
You have no
fluctuate.
control over it,
Right.
right?
What percentage of the benefits are ones that we are required, like, are federal benefits that are required to pull out?
Federal, or do you want to go with all required, like, well, healthcare is not required, but we do. Do you want to, like, retirement, or you just want the two federals?
There's just the federal.
It's about a little under 10%,
Okay.
but that's only in this line. The HR is only those hitting taxation. There are other lines with the water and sewer funds,
Okay.
so.
Are we going to see any sort of impact of the new healthcare law? Does it impact us at all?
Not this year, no.
What about our out years here?
I'm trying, do we hit the threshold for number of employees?
We do.
50.
We would,
We do.
so.
Do you know how it's going to impact us if we run those numbers?
I have started to run those numbers. I wanted to, kind of opens up a can of worms, so to speak, and that's that.
I don't want to get into the political, whether it's right or wrong. I really just want to know what the bottom line impact of the town is
Yeah,
going to
we're studying it, but we have to identify all the positions in the town first.
be. Okay.
Matt, it's threshold, so it's 50,
50 employees,
and we have approximately now.
50 employees.
52, right?
52.
Oh, 52?
52.
Yeah, but we're combining that one part.
Yeah, that's all right, yeah.
Okay.
Part-time considered,
No, any employee who works 30 or more hours
Okay.
is considered a full-time employee.
So by combining those two part-times, we just upped our number one.
Yes.
I just think that it's something that, there's a lot of hype and whatever around it on both sides of the issue. I just want to know what the financial impact of the town is going to be. And I think we need to be planning out for that, whether it's going to help or hurt, either way, we just need to know. Councilor Branch.
Just a question, why there's no budget for ICMA retirement?
The ICMA retirement related to the past town administrator's contract.
I'm in the New Hampshire retirement system, not ICMA.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Zink.
There are two items on here I'd like to have you consider. One is, and it's one against, that the Efficiency Committee has brought up time and time and time again, and that is liability insurance. Whether, and I know all this is new.
No.
You haven't got time to do
No,
everything.
no, I can give you an answer on some liability.
But looking collectively at the town and school liability insurance, my question is, are we sharing the same philosophy relative to liability? Are we getting the same kind of standards relative to liability? Or are selections by the school or the town based on their tolerance for risk different? And, because I think they should be the same.
They're not.
Okay. That's question number two. And one, and question number two, I was unaware that we have longevity pay. I think, personally, I think the longevity pay, I would like to see go into merit. It's not how long you've been here, it's the kind of job you do. And it's $15,000.
That would be, well, I'll go with the second one first. That would be my recommendation as well. The council may be aware, I was kind of taken aback. I thought it was a grandfathered process that we had longevity, because that's something that most places got rid of a long time ago. I would probably recommend amending the personnel policy to add that into merit. As for property liability insurance, they do rate us, not only do they rate schools and towns differently, they rate departments within the town differently. The reasoning is, it's the liability for a police officer or firefighter much higher than for finance or, well, sadly not town administrators, but some other departments like that. So they do rate those differently. If we were to be rated with the schools, it would probably skew the numbers not in our favor, because you're adding more people, but you're adding our liabilities in with the school, with like police, fire, and highway. Those are the highest liabilities. And back in the only reason why liability is through a trust and not insurance, even though we call it insurance, it's not insurance, we're in a pool. Back in the mid-'80s, there was the time that insurance companies basically called up municipalities and said, we're not insuring you anymore. We're getting too many claims. Because every time somebody gets a flat tire, somebody gets an accident with a plow truck, things that we have to do, or they slip and fall on a sidewalk, we still need to file and go through that process. So that does impact our liability. So private insurance companies dropped us, and the municipal association and other entities stepped in and said, okay, we'll start offering liability insurance through a trust, same way as they did with healthcare and they do with others. Our costs, I can tell you that I've gone out for a proposal this year, because there are two basically entities that would quote liability insurance through in New Hampshire, and I'm getting word that there's a third. When I found out, when I got the cost and I was asking for a current insurer to provide us with a cost, a multi-year agreement was signed last year. So we're locked in until 2014. I'm looking at our options with that multi-year agreement and still getting prices to try to revise that. And it was not just for property liability, it was also for workers' comp, and not life and disability, though that one we are going out for. So multi-year agreements were signed that we can't get out of.
Did the count?
I was just going to say, did the council have anything to do with that, or is that up? to
I have no
town
record of the
administrator?
council.
Should we
signing.
have? Seems to me like we should have.
Past practice of the town would have been no. Common practice is yes. I would have brought the contract for any multi-year agreements to the council.
Yeah.
Is that why our workers' comp jumped up by a significant amount of?
Workers' comp went up 2 reasons. One, rate increase, plus they did an audit, and all of our positions were not matching what we were insuring, which is always a risk. After that was done, we're still reviewing that because we have some questions about some of the positions, the way they reclassified them. But there was just a number of them that weren't in there, or they weren't classified correctly.
Well, it seems to me like our budget for FY13 is much closer to what the actuals were.
Right, that's the,
This is like a huge, it's like $30,000. Yeah, $30,000 jump.
but there's a 9% rate increase for workers' comp in there too.
Okay.
And again, when we talk about insurance with that, that's the guaranteed maximum. It could go lower. I wouldn't expect that with workers' comp right now. But other ones, the property and liability, you may see a slight decrease, but I just, workers' comp, I wouldn't expect that. I mean, health insurance, if you notice that there was a significant decrease. That was the one that we determined, we did a survey of all those individuals who were receiving health care and went by actual plans, and this reflects actuals. My understanding, there was extra monies budgeted in there just for emergencies or just in case.
Councilor Carmichael.
Steve, on unemployment, looks like you just, well, not just you, but in previous years, looks like almost like a flat $10,000, $10,000 for unemployment. Is that ever used?
It's an insurance policy.
That's
We
insurance
buy
we're
unemployment,
paying?
yeah, we buy unemployment insurance. So if we have large claims, the insurance company would be covering that. That's one of my other goals, would be for a longer term, and they can't throw everything right now, but would be self-insuring our unemployment.
Yeah, okay.
So you make sure that,
Just
'cause-
seem expensive.
right.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Zink.
One last try here. Property liability insurance.
Yeah.
I would hope that we would have a common philosophy regarding property liability insurance
I guess I need your definition. What do you mean philosophy?
with the town and the school.
Do you
But
want
if-
us to bid together, or do you want us?
I don't care, but I mean, if the town is particularly risk averse
Mhm.
and has a low deductible and chooses to do that, I think community buildings, community resources should be looked at similarly, so that whatever the
And
risk.
they are. I mean, buildings are buildings. People are where the risk is.
But I'm on property insurance now.
Property and liability insurance, but liability is also if employee X gets hurt or something happens that we get sued. Well, it's also workers' comp, but also if somebody gets sued, that's where it comes in. And also where you're saying police officer X goes in and arrests somebody, grabs them, does it correctly, and does something to their arm, and it hurts, and it may break it or hurt it. Liability insurance covers that.
I'm doing a very poor job on my.
Yeah, I'm trying to guess you,
I'm
but
talking-
yeah.
I'm talking property insurance.
We
Not
we don't separate property and liability, it's one coverage. I don't know what you're asking.
I'm asking, does the town and the school have the same philosophy regarding
What's your definition of philosophy?
risk? I mean, I go buy insurance every year for my home.
Yeah?
And I get to choose a policy that's A, B, C, D, or E based on my
We don't-
risk tolerance.
We don't get different policies like that. You don't get a different deductible.
Oh,
One deductible,
one plan, one deductible.
Right.
I'm sorry.
yeah,
That's neat.
yeah.
I wish I was the provider of that.
Yeah, I know, that seems, there's no way to have different deductibles. To choose between.
Because of the risks that municipalities face of getting sued,
No,
they try.
equity insurance. I'm not,
I guess what are you, what, do you want us to look at every plan and say that we have a $10,000 deductible for X and versus a $2,000 that the school may have? I don't know.
I think he's talking the town hall, this is property.
Yeah.
Right.
community property, whether it be the town hall or the school building or the
We-
fire station.
If we're under the same provider, which I'm not sure what the school uses,
Yeah.
we would have the same deductibles.
So there's, a municipality only has one choice for deductible.
Unless you switch to a different provider, yes.
Who's our provider?
Ours is currently the local government center. The other provider would be Primex. Other than that, nobody's jumping up and down to come bite municipal liability. It's just not out there. I know of one town, I know before I said I didn't know of any. I found one town that switched out of those two. And I'm asking for that information to see if they'd look at us. But nobody wants to touch municipal liability because of the amount we get sued and other items that we have. If, for example, I know of cases where firefighters in an ambulance situation that somebody's carrying somebody after an injury, especially now because of the new law. Somebody slips and falls, or somebody falls and gets injured during we can get sued for that, and our liability insurance covers the lawsuit for that. So nobody wants to touch our liability.
So there is no way to separate property and liability insurance?
We only have property liability together.
And every municipality
Every
does it that way?
municipality is that way.
Who determines the assessment of the liability coverage? Who values this?
I mean, the buildings and
Sure.
there's independent individuals who come out and look at the value of the buildings, and the board of directors, after talking to actuaries and assessors, would determine what the values are. I know but annually they send people out to look at the values of the buildings. There's a case over in Hopkinton where the number that was put on the form didn't match what the value of the building was. Shame on both sides for not catching that, but now they're trying to replace a burnt-out highway facility. But yeah, no, that's the system in New Hampshire is one provider. One coverage.
And
Not one
is the
provider.
school under the same?
Yeah, I believe they only have the two providers that we do. The local government center or Primex, same thing. I don't know everything where they may be able to go, but I can tell you municipalities, nobody wants to touch their liability.
I would at least appreciate a discussion between you and the
Oh, absolutely.
superintendent relative to who your carrier is.
Yep.
And what variables there are, because I'd hate to find out that if the school and the town had a different philosophy relative to replacement value, for example. I know as a homeowner, we can make the decision how to value our home
Yeah.
and before you say no.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying no. What I'm saying is, we value to what the recommended value of the building and equipment inside is. We don't do less. You know, it's an estimate of what that is. It's not the same as a home owner.
Okay,
So, but I'll talk to him about the coverage.
okay, thanks.
Anything else in HR? What's next?
Next would be, you want code enforcement. Down 7.26%. We're saving $5,000 in part-time salaries because code enforcement officer agreed to lower salary.
Does he report directly to you?
Yes.
You mean you started?
Yes, he started this week.
Very good.
This is a position we reduced from full-time to part-time.
That's correct.
I guess a couple of years ago. Does it appear that the reduction in hours to part-time sufficiently meets our needs?
I have not heard any issues. That's one thing I was going to monitor this year. So, because and that would be something I'd look at too, is do you bump up their hours, or do you add a second person to assist at part-time? So,
Good thought.
yeah.
Actually, I've had to use the code enforcer twice this year, and there hasn't been any issue of
Right.
of getting him to see the building.
I think we didn't have one for a while, too.
And, Charlie filled in.
Yeah. And Charlie, I will say, was a great help. He would be in every day to see if there were any permits. And he was actually doing that in 2 communities because he was doing it here at the same time he was doing it in my previous community. So I knew he was out straight.
What did you say the percent shift was?
And down 7.26
Why does my budget say it's flat?
because you don't have, I'm sorry, it's flat for you. Remember I reduced the code enforcement
That's
by
right.
5?
There you go.
I'm looking at the new
The
updated
updated
one.
one, okay.
I have that. So.
Good.
So, the next would be welfare, which is on page 35. I'm sorry, no question.
Councilor Carmichael.
Any benefits with the code officer?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, the code officer is retired from the New Hampshire, in the New Hampshire retirement system, so we need to make sure he doesn't go over a certain number of hours.
Okay.
Direct assistance.
We are reducing this one significantly, as we've discussed in my memo. It reflects actuals. We've updated our welfare guidelines to be more stringent and request more information when applying. And also, part of it is when individuals apply, we have before it was somebody in-house. So they'd come in and it would be very quick with the guidelines and turn around. We have now a part-time individual who's reviewing all the forms even more in depth and looking for alternative sources in which to get assistance, food banks and other agencies out there. So we're seeing a significant drop in that. And it's, as you can see, it's actuals. I mean, we've been pretty level funded, but I would even, since I don't have all the history yet, I want to see where we are. But this is, I would even double check for the next budget to see where we are with everything.
What happened between 2010 and 2012? If you look at especially rec.
Yep, I believe that was the difference between having the individual who's dedicated to doing this versus an individual who, while working extremely hard at making sure everybody followed the guidelines, and the guidelines were updated to see who can apply and comply with our regulations.
We were giving it out in 2010 to individuals that did not actually qualify for it.
I would not. They qualified under the guidelines we had at that time.
Okay.
Oh.
Guidelines from the state?
No, we set. There's a mix between state and what we set.
I mean, I don't remember amending these guidelines at any point. I would not council.
As I recall over the past budget, this is, again, another place where accolades kind of go to a good personnel decision
Yeah.
of being more rigorous.
Questions on this? I just want to make sure, do you think we have enough in here?
Yes.
Because we took a lot out of
Yes,
it. And if there's
absolutely.
anywhere that I think
No,
that
we have.
welfare spending is
we have
important, is at the
enough.
local level.
We have enough. If we don't have it, I'll move it from somewhere else.
Okay.
This is a line that you have to spend, no matter what happens. If it goes over, we'll find it somewhere else. But I just can't, looking at past history, it's
Right.
just not there.
Sorted.
Yep.
Next.
Assessor. You are seeing a decrease of 2.09%. The position of assessor under part-time salaries, if the council, I did not switch it yet because I haven't gotten approval from the council, there will be a contracted service. I am leaving it at 40,000 due to the fact that the contract that is being proposed would be at about 30,000. However, abatements and appeals to the BTLA or court, it's a different hourly rate, and that's common for any contract. So I'm not sure what the number of abatements that we may have. That's just a safe estimate there. The assessor assistant is the individual who during the summer does the pickups. So, and that I can tell you, I had to double check the price because that's very close the actuals. Actually, it's probably a little cheaper, but that's a great deal for pickups, having that person be able to do that. So yeah, we'll be contracting out our general assessing services.
Has it been awarded?
You will do it on Wednesday evening.
Okay, all right, fine, yep.
Yeah.
I mean, do we have a name or just?
Oh yeah, I'm recommending Municipal Resources Inc. They do it through a number of communities.
I've heard of it, yep.
Yeah, MRI.
Yep.
Is the common name. There was another company that was close, but it was just a little higher in price. So it was interesting actually to see the fluctuation in the price. I mean, there was a bunch that were down at that level, and then I had some that were like $80,000-$90,000 a year for the service. I was like, no. So.
Councilor Branch.
Just to refresh my memory, I know we need to do a town-wide reassessment.
Yes.
How are we budgeting for that?
Under the capital contribution to capital reserve funds, there's $40,000. That's for the first portion of it, and then the next year I'll ask for additional funds to be placed in there so we can do it. Originally, I thought the cost was about $150,000. Those prices have dropped significantly. I asked other communities how much they were seeing, and it's between 60 to 80 now. So yeah, we're seeing almost a half in what that estimate was. That's why when we get to that part, you're going to see my recommendation go from 75,000 down to 40,000, because just the price wasn't there. I was very surprised because one community that I was in the last time, it was 150. I asked the person now what it was, and it's like 60.
Ooh.
So.
Okay.
Any other questions on assessing? Councilor
I gotta ask this question. If we're gonna pay for it anyway, and why would we put it in a capital reserve, which in my mind, that doesn't qualify for?
Because CIP and capital reserves are two different things. We shouldn't be calling those CIPs.
Okay.
We should be calling them contribution to capital reserve funds. They're savings accounts.
But if
Okay.
we're doing this over a 2-year period, why don't we just?
We should be doing it over a 5-year period. Every year, we should be contributing a fifth of what it's going to
Okay.
cost us for this.
All right, so that's what, moving
Right.
forward, that's what this,
You're
okay.
going to see it drop. You're not going to see a complete zero out after we do it. I'm going to budget a small
Okay.
amount.
Well, that makes sense.
Right.
All right, I've got it now.
Yeah, and trust me, when I started, I was like, well, have we been saving? And no, but I mean, we knew it was coming.
Yeah,
So.
okay.
Councilor Zink.
And just to note again, if you look back to 2010, we had a salary line of 108,000, which is now 16,000.
Yep.
And that was another area along with the mechanic and so forth where it seems to have proven out that it was a good decision to look at an alternative.
I agree.
The 108, we paid somebody that?
Yeah, it was a full-time.
We had a full-time
Full-time
assessor.
assessor.
Wow,
Plus, by the way, benefits, which don't show up on here, so
good job.
Significantly more.
it's huge.
I was looking at that and I said, that couldn't have been his salary.
We are approaching 12:30. Do we want to take a lunch break?
Do you want to do one quick department and then do the lunch break?
That sounds good to me.
Legal.
That's
I'm
not
adding
gonna be
10,000.
quick.
That's not
Yeah.
going to be. Way to try to sneak it in there, Mr. Administrator. That's not going to happen.
Okay.
All right. How long?
Up to you.
Half hour? Think we
Yeah,
can have
the
it?
next department, I believe, is scheduled for 1.
Okay, let's break till 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. Want to order something?
You'll never get it in time, right?
Yeah, there's no.
We just got to scramble on our
We're
own.
gonna tell him we're off.
Yeah, he should.
Let me just turn
Turn
the
us
light.
off, Chris.